We are with you live from the Beit Midrash. Just kidding. Never use that introduction. Today's class, we are continuing in our discussion of Ahavas Chesed, in loving things that are good to do. And we're going to talk about the obligation to have a regular, we call it a gemach, but it is a gemilus chesed. The gemach is just gimel mem ches, short for gemilus chesed, and it is referring to having a place whereby one could distribute loans. We've been talking about this institution for months now, going back all the way to section 1, where we talk about the obligation to set these things up and who gets to come first and so on. And we've had some lengthy and verbose discussions about how important it is to make these things available. So now we're going to talk about the institution itself, that every city should have one. And so the Ahavas Chaim himself points out, says, even though we've arranged a lot of the different pieces of the obligation to do chesed, so you have to take this. It's what we call this a personal responsibility or personal obligation. Much like any custom that you would have. If your custom in your house is to, only eat certain things, or to only do certain things, or you say only you have a particular nusach, a particular pattern that you use for prayer. Those things are all fixed by your house. You should have chesed in your house too, but more than that, whether it's a lot or a little bit, that there really needs to be an institution to help out greater causes, because even when you combine all these little bits, it's never enough to necessarily do the whole thing. And some people don't have the ability to dedicate time to, with the loans, you have to do an application, you have to know what's going on, and there's a lot that goes in. And last week we even saw about how sometimes people will just want the loan for a business opportunity, and you'll have to learn how to do a proper, what's known as heter iska, which I think this chapter is a little short today. I think we'll have time for that. If not, you'll get another video called Writing a Heter Iska. So that today we're going to talk about the best advice for the large group of people, for the community itself, to collect all their money into one place and make an institution known as a gemach. And that gemach will extend the loans to people as they need it. And the truth is, he says, that's something that's been around for a while, okay? There's always been pretty much one of these things established in every single city. I found out there was one in my city that was over 100 years old, but they weren't following the laws of Ribbis correctly. And some Orthodox rabbis came to us and took the loan, and I said, well, I don't know what they did and didn't do. Sometimes people just don't look at the contract, but I look at every contract. And so there's now the Gedalia Walls clause. I don't think they change it for everybody, but in cases where I've helped people attract them, make sure that this is there. So they're very open to that. I showed them how these contracts are written, and it's really important that they be done in a way that there's no problem with ribbis. This is my own commentary. It's not the Ahavas Chaim. Now, even we just said at the very beginning of the book, writes the Ahavas Chaim, and in many following chapters, how awful it is and what a sin it is to retract oneself from giving, and consequently the great amount of the Gedalia Walls clause. That's what it was referred to as. You want that guy. So a person for sure doesn't want to have, who has any common sense, they need to not let this pass and not let this opportunity go on. Okay? Yeah, people should go ahead and make available these things. I even heard one time there was this old Jewish man who owned a basketball team here. I think his name was Sterling, and he owned a basketball team known as the Los Angeles Clippers. And so in the last years of his ownership of the team, he was talking about he was not well. He was spewing about certain things, and he was talking about it was on CNN or ESPN or something like this. Before the family kind of clamped down on him, kind of explained he was he was kind of losing it a little bit in sort of his last years, right before they sold the team, and he was talking about how he used to contribute considerably to his local free loan society. So this is something even the wealthiest of Jewish people speak with great pride. Some people are like, wait, you give out loans without interest? You can look it up about him talking. Probably even see the video about him talking about it. When I saw it, I'm like, it's amazing to me. This dude owns an NBA team, and he's talking about how one of his main contributions, besides fixing up a lot of old decrepit neighborhoods, was also he felt very proud of his contributions to a free loan society, no interest loans. So what happens is sometimes the Ahavas continues is that a poor person is going to basically have to, in order to get enough money for their needs, they're going to have to establish a relationship with a number of people, and it's very difficult. So, and he's gonna be frustrated, and he's gonna cry, and he's gonna pour out his sob story to Hashem. And what's gonna happen is that we see that is exactly what the Torah warns us against. It says, "Hishamer lecha pen yat davar im levavcha bli ya'al lemor." God through Moshe Rabbeinu was speaking in Sefer Devarim, be warned that there be any non-kind thought in your heart, saying the following: Karva Shnas Hasheva, right? That as the 7th year approaches, right? Because what you're going to do is you're going to not lend to him. Okay, because what's going to happen is that if you don't give him the loan, he's going to come to me, to Hashem, and I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to consider it as a sin by you. And the Ahavas considers, he says that the nasty collar that you all wear as a result of this is that you're going to constantly be branded as selfish people, and you don't want that to happen. So he says, I'm going to inform you of something that everybody should know about, how amazing it is, have such a holy institution that is so beautiful to have just a plain old gemach that does everything, that the person sometimes does for themselves and sometimes to do for other things. So here are the different things that you can expect to get out of a gemach. So number one, it says it's incomparable what the community does versus a few people. Okay, and the rabbis say this in the Midrash. It says that that many people give, especially when it comes to contributing money, that the larger amount will go ahead and cover a loan, as opposed to having only a small amount. Okay, that really what Hashem wants is that a person individually should be doing this mitzvah. However, if you don't have the money all available, the person wouldn't be able to the person would be able to have their request met. So that's one great reason to have an institution for this. It's also a big mitzvah that a person makes some type of a commitment financially, and not just sort of like make empty promises, and that's an amazing amount of reward for that person to make the financial commitment. And it says that someone who wants to do a mitzvah appropriately, especially like for the example of a mitzvah, he brings the example of the mitzvah of doing truma, when you give from your field, the crops of your field, to the Kohen. Says that if you want to do this mitzvah well, you're going to, and through this mitzvah, you're going to also improve God's presence in the world. You have to do it in such a way with, that you're not, that it's not being done without some type of financial expense on your part. That a person needs to feel that they're giving something of themselves. Why? Because we see that the Torah itself asks you when you would give to even the temple that you should give something from yourself. Okay, that's the idea, is that the as we call it, the hishtadlus, right? The effort being made by the person is not just do it for free, but you give something. You give something that's actually tangible. You give something that a person can see, feel, touch, and that's how you know that when you're investing in something, you're giving it sort of a free will offering. Okay. So a person should focus themselves on doing things that allows them to transact something with somebody else, and allows them to connect with them, and allows them to connect with an activity, not just sort of verbally supporting an idea. And that's the way Hashem wants to interact with the world, even though He's somewhat removed from it. Hashem likes to be present for the activity itself, and that's what Hashem is looking for, is that type of activity. That's another reason why Gemach is so important. You see there's a lot of activity going through it. Third thing he says, good reason for the Gemach. Okay? And the nice thing about it is that you know that this mitzvah can be done at all times, even when you're sleeping. It's automatic. It's like a website. They have websites. They didn't have websites in the late 19th, 20th century, in case someone didn't know that. Now, besides all this, he writes, the Midrash says further that if a person is basically wondering about the mitzvah, what does it do for him? How does it affect them, over the course of time? So, what's the benefit of a mitzvah that takes a long time to complete? Right? It's I give you the money and you're happy. Oh, I get that immediate satisfaction. So, if I do a big public one, I don't really get that satisfaction so much. But that's actually the good thing. That when you have a large public mitzvah like this, or something that addresses the public weal, giving money to an institution, things like giving money to the schools, the shuls. So at this point, a person is basically accruing mitzvah value. So that the Chafetz Chaim says, that person, he's so good, he's sitting in Gan Eden, and it's going to be even better there, because everything that he's done up until now, money that had been given during his lifetime, is going to continue to perpetuate those good feelings. So the money is accruing, so the spiritual interest as well. Okay, and so different people who are do this, the trustees of these public places, and those people who go and collect the money, and those people who pledge the money, those people who are involved in those little aspects of it, they are obtaining a significant amount of schar for that, because that's what they really look for. The pasuk says in Mishlei 21:21, Radav tzedakah v'chesed yimtzeh chaim tzedakah v'kavod. That those who pursue charity and kindness, what they will find is life, charity, and honor. So when you look for tzedakah, you're going to find tzedakah everywhere you go. So the people who are entrusted with all of these people should basically be the Gabbai Tzedakah, the ones in charge of collecting the charity. Okay, so if let's say a person messed up in life, what could they do to make up for not leading such a great life? So, if he was somebody who used to learn, he learn one chapter, learn two chapters. He learned one daf, learn two daf. And if he was somebody whose problem was with money, so then he should go learn to collect tzedakah, do for others. Okay, because involving yourself in tzedakah increases your life and livelihood. And so now the thing is that when you invest yourself in collecting money for the charity, you're kind of like compelling others to do it. But still, the point is that someone who basically sort of compels and excites people to complete this mitzvah is as if they're doing it themselves. That's why they are improving their mitzvah balance, as it were. So that is why a person should feel motivated to motivate others to do the mitzvah. So, and it gives an example. It says that by Moshe Rabbeinu, he says that you had a staff by which you struck the river to turn it into blood. So the Rashi asks over there. He says, "Well, one second. Moshe didn't strike the river. Aaron struck it." Okay, what was tell you that someone who instructs his fellow to do something, it's as if they themselves do it. So that's why we're saying over here, if you're instructing somebody to give tzedakah, same thing, you get some of the chelek of tzedakah as well. And besides this, he says, this is somebody who is doing a tremendous merit for the public, because by collecting the money, you're allowed to get lots of Jews to do lots of mitzvahs with lots of money they're contributing. Okay, and so someone who does something meritorious for the public, the sin doesn't stick to him at all. And furthermore, the rabbis say in the Talmud, how great is the it's better for one who instructs people to do well more so than people who are actually doing it themselves. Okay, because the pasuk says that doing the action of charity and peace is different than doing the than bringing the charity, bringing the quiet and the security. Why? Because the act of charity itself, the giving of money for charity, and the act of kindness that is done for others are related to each other, which is that the collection of money for this thing and the act of giving to somebody else are an important part of the job of the person who collects charity. That money is going to go out and do something and then come right back to its owner. And so it appears to me, says Ahavas Chaim, that therefore the person who is collecting and is organizing it is better than the one who's actually doing the giving, because I can do a little bit of this and do a little bit of that and give a little bit of money to do it, but the chesed being done in order to actually put yourself into it and involve it is significant. And that's what we're saying, that arranging the mitzvah is better than the actual doing of the mitzvah itself, because you're giving people the opportunity to do it. So organizing the collection of money or of clothing or of anything, whatever that people might need, food, and to go to speak to everybody about it, and to get them all to do this mitzvah is something you do with your person. So therefore, by getting more people involved in this, and you're going around and encouraging them to do it, you yourself are getting an even bigger mitzvah than just simply giving the chesed yourself. One final point he makes over here in this chapter: if a person themselves has the time to go ahead and do tzedakah and chesed, and they're simply doing the collection, and they're making sure that these things, there's a follow through and there's follow up, and people are motivated to continue to give. So yeah, Hashem's going to give him a lot of blessing for engaging in these things. Okay, so someone asks for a contribution, and that person gives. So there's two types of reward. There's the reward in the request, and then there's the reward in completing the request. Now, if you make the request and they don't do it, you still get reward for making the request. Okay? And furthermore, that when you request others to give along with you, you get the reward for them giving is there, and for them giving as well. And even furthermore, the more people you bring in, that people who are involving themselves in the giving are more likely to continue to give, and so you are continuing a process. So you are a cog in this wheel of mitzvos And being that is seen as super valuable, more so than just the plain old I'm just giving the tzedakah. Okay, so one example of this is in a Gemara in Bava Basra, where Rava lived in a place called Mechuza. And he told him one time, he says, Usua Hadadi, Shalama b'malchusa. He says, you should each be compelling each other, okay, to give charity in order to improve peace in this kingdom. Like, you like it the way that it is, do more good deeds. Stop being selfish. There's tons of stories about Mechuza and Rava there. Rava did not like the city. He felt that the people there were they liked to show how smart they were and how wealthy they were, but they were lacking. They were not good at doing tzedakah and chesed. And by the way, by really encouraging people to give, the more people feel or see that there is a motivation to continue giving, and everybody gives, they will be less likely to say no, and you're increasing mitzvah performance through this action. And everything that has been a detractor up until now will also fall away. And then basically you'll get this heavenly blessing that the kingdom which rules over you, whichever government rules over you, you will continue to enjoy peace with that government. Because back then, for sure, in Europe, there's always this tension felt between the Jewish community and the kingdom. They always were constantly negotiating to feel like they were a part of the country and be citizens. And in the 19th and 20th century, people had only been citizens of those countries for the past maybe half a century to a century. Certainly in Germany, they barely had any time. People would know people who were not citizens. For 1,000 years, people were not citizens, and most Jews were not citizens of most European countries. So imagine how it would feel to have all these good feelings with the government as a result of encouraging people to do tzedakah. And then even giving money to the malchus themselves would be a great idea. And here he's kind of encouraging what they were doing in the early 19th century, which was investment banking, started by a lot of Jewish people. And you can look into Mir Anshel. I have Rottenberg somewhere. It's not Rottenberg. It's also an R. Rothschild, and the initial creation of investment banking was a way to create a giant investment engine amongst the Jewish community to help out large governments, and it helped improve the life of many Jews in Germany as a result of the investment banking that was done. It allowed them to finance things like big public wheel projects and finance things like wars. And the Germans, they love wars, so they helped finance that. And they were happy, and the Jews were happy, and it was good for a little bit. But he's sort of intimating to that in these statements is that you can see the power of public tzedakah, or when wealthy people all get together and make a public project that's absolutely incredible. And he says at the end of this chapter, I've expanded on this significantly because I want to show you just how important it is about getting people to contribute to a public project like this. There are people who try to get away from it because someone else is going to do the mitzvah, but everyone still needs to do the mitzvah, and there is significant value not only in the giving and the doing, but also contributing to the large public projects as well. Okay, and so next week we will talk about the great message in tzedakah. I might have to change. I have some Dinei Torah coming up, so I might not be available at the normal time. So I will be rescheduling the class. I will let everybody know what that schedule will look like for next week. And also we have Shavuos coming up in a couple of weeks. So we'll try to get the Mishnah Berurah classes in and this class in as well. So just keep tabs on the channel, and we will keep you informed. And I am going to I didn't have time today to go ahead, I was talking too much. I didn't have time today to talk about Heter Iska, so I will make a separate class on Heter Iska, there, and talk about it and show you some forms so you can get an idea of what it looks like, so that way when you feel that you can make a loan for somebody, let's say like $10, $15, $20,000 to get a business going, you can have a proper investment agreement that will not make you violate the laws of interest. Have a wonderful day. Talk to everyone soon.